O'clock. All right, share screen. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to formally call this meeting to order. Today's date is September 30th. The time is now 3:02 p.m. I'd like to mention that at our last meeting, we finally approved and committed to our Senate community values. So they are not only attached as a PDF to our agenda, but I also had them copied and pasted directly into our agenda so that people can refer to them if needed. So I'd like to mention that while today's agenda looks somewhat open or more open than it usually is, we actually have some pretty time-intensive items to discuss. So the specific community guideline that I'd like to point out for today is our weight idea that we took from our anti-racism training, those of us that have participated in Crossroads. Why am I talking? Why aren't I talking? So just keep that one specifically in mind today, but all of our guidelines should be adhered to as we work together at the virtual table today. Additionally, our Zoom guidelines are here attached to the agenda. I think by now we've been working together for some time and we're familiar with them. The biggest one, please, in the participants field, should a senator want to contribute to the conversation, please raise your virtual hand and I can see that and I can call on you to unmute yourself and contribute to the conversation. So with that, we'll move on to our land acknowledgement. I would like to ask somebody to read it for us. The land acknowledgement is shared right now if you'd like to use it. Jenny, I saw you unmute yourself. Are you willing to read it?
I can do it.
Awesome. Thanks, Jenny.
Sure. Before we begin, we would like to acknowledge the Chumash people who are the traditional custodians of this land. We pay our respects to the Chumash elders, past, present, and future, who call this place, the land that Santa Barbara City College sits upon, their home. We are honored to be guests upon this land and are proud to continue their tradition of coming together and growing as a community. We thank the Chumash community for their stewardship and support, and we look forward to the strengthening of our ties as we continue our relationship of mutual respect and understanding.
All right. Anna?
I just wanted to make a quick announcement that's related to this, I guess. I don't know if y'all saw, but the city council just passed the renaming of Indio Muerto Street to Hutash Street. So I just thought it was relevant and wanted to make sure everyone knew.
Right on. I did not know that. Thank you for sharing that. Okay. All right. So next on our, did I thank Jenny? Jenny, thank you for that. I'm sorry if I thanked you twice. Next, we're moving on to the approval of our agenda. So I'd like to point out, I'd like to do 2.5 and 2.6 at the same time. We are having a presentation at 4:15. So wherever we are in our discussion, if we find a good break, we're going to stop there so that our FA reps, Jeff Gray and Cornelia Alzheimer, can give their presentation at 4:15. So with that in mind, I'd like to, unless there's other objections or amendments to our agenda, I'd like us, let me get this right. Let me see, let me get my language here so that we don't have to do a roll call. Okay, the agenda has been distributed to you all. Are there any other amendments or corrections at this time to our agenda? If so, please share. If not, sorry, what? I'm sorry, did somebody unmute themselves and have something to say? No? Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Must be some kickback. So the agenda has been distributed to you all. Are there any corrections? If not, we are going to accept the agenda as posted. Okay, coolness. With that, we are now at public comments. I did not receive a request for public comment ahead of this meeting. Christina, did you receive a request at all?
I did not.
Okay, So at this time, if there's anyone from the public or any senators present that would like to make a public comment, please indicate now by raising your hand in the participants field. All right. I'm not seeing anyone raising their hand. So I don't think, oh, and by the way, public comment can be given now or before a specific agenda item. Just wanted to mention that. Okay, so I'm not seeing anyone with their hand raised. So we'll move on from public comment to approval of our minutes. So the minutes have been distributed to you all by attachment of our agenda. So at this time, if anybody has any corrections, Cornelia?
I have a suggestion on agenda item 10.1. Could we put in a summary of the proposal that Jana was presenting to us, please? Because I believe the attachment which was included in the agenda was the status quo, and what she presented was something in addition. And I tried to review it from the minutes, didn't find it.
Yes, we can make that happen. I don't think we have it on hand right now. I probably have it via email from Jana, but we can make sure those are included.
Thank you.
Thanks for that. Any other suggestions for changes to our, or amendments or changes to our minutes?
Ray, it's the item where we talk about the faculty ranking. Chris, please tell me that I didn't actually use the word that Ray can bargain with the superintendent president. I fear that I may have actually used that word. And perhaps we could change it to present recommendations. Is that recreating history after the fact? I meant to say she could bring forward recommendations to the superintendent president.
I've updated the text.
Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, so we've been discussing 2 changes to the minutes, and our administrative assistant, Chris, has noted those. So are there any other corrections that anyone would like to see at this time? Okay, with no further corrections, we will approve these excuse me, we will approve these minutes as corrected. All right, so moving along. All right. So at this time, I'm going to not provide an oral report today other than saying, please read my president's report. I link out to certain documents from there that were presented at the different district committee meetings that I am liaison to as on behalf of the Academic Senate. There's stuff in there like our enrollment numbers for the summer and the fall that are of interest to people, as well as my brief summary of the Board of Trustees meeting. I cannot say this enough. Whether it be senators or faculty as a whole, folks should really be tuning into the Board of Trustees meetings. You can go back and watch the videos. And also faculty and senators especially should be making sure that they're present at the budget forums that are scheduled for this week, and making sure that everybody is well informed about where we are on the budget, as we are headed into some very difficult conversations in the near future. So I just want to say that. So with that, I won't say anything else. And I'll open it up to our Senate liaisons. They also have written reports, but if any of our Senate liaisons want to provide a brief oral report, now would be a good time if you could raise your hand in the participant field. And you can each have a turn if you'd like. We just had a meeting last week, so there might not be anything. I'm not seeing hands, so it seems like Ruth, Robin, Pam, Michelle, you guys are all good? Okay. With that, we'll move on to item 5.3, the EVP report. Pamela, you did not supply me with a written report this week. Would you like to provide the Senate an oral report?
No, I'm interested in all the time going to the things on your agenda this week.
Great. Thanks for that. And item 5.4, there was no request at this time to agendize anything, so the document just says as much. All right, so our consent items. We found someone for the Facilities and Safety Committee, Craig Meropoulos from PE and Athletics. So we are very excited to have him in addition to our previous Faculty and Safety Committee appointees. So as a reminder, as a teaching point for our consent agenda, if anybody wants to discuss anything that's on our consent agenda, they have to ask for items to be removed from our consent agenda, and then it will go to the bottom of our discussion agenda. Otherwise, we approve the consent agenda as a whole. Now, today there's only one item on the consent agenda, which is our Senate appointee for this committee. So with that, I'd like to ask if there's a recommendation to approve our consent agenda, which includes the Senate appointment for this committee. Robin,
I move approval.
is there a second?
I second.
Ellen Carey seconded. So Robin made the motion, Ellen Carey seconded. With that, we'll do a roll call approval. Get the members up. Okay, so I'll go through this list as given here on the screen under senators. Okay, so you can vote yay or yes, no, or abstain. Cornelia, approval of our consent agenda.
Yes.
Counselor Jen,
Yes.
Ellen,
Yes.
Jenny,
Yes.
Patricia Stark,
Yes.
Michelle,
Yes.
Devana. Is Devana with us today? I don't see her today. Okay. Pam,
Yes.
Kathy?
Yes.
Okay, thanks, Kathy. Robin,
Yes.
Jen,
Yes.
Robbie,
Yes.
Ruth,
Yes.
Tara,
Yes.
Russell. I thought I saw him here. Russell, are you there? There he is.
I'm
Thanks.
here. Can you hear me?
Yep, we can now.
All right.
Thanks, Russell.
Thank you.
Trisha
Yes.
and Anna.
Yes.
Excellent.
No, where?
You don't know where, Franny.
Yeah.
Yeah, they approved it. It's good. Okay, thanks everyone. All right, information items. I mentioned this previously. The budget forums are given here. There's been emails about it. I suspect there will be more email reminders about it as well. So please go to one of them or watch the recording after the presentations. Please, please, please. All right, with that, moving right along, our big ticket item for this week, the discussion of guidelines for our faculty ranking. So our October meetings are going to be devoted and dedicated to our faculty ranking process. As we discussed last week, our faculty ranking process is going to be incredibly important as we are in a time of austerity and regardless of whether we are or we aren't, this is always one of the most important decisions that the faculty body makes as a Senate each and every year. So last week, we only got to commit to our schedule. You all approved our time slots and presentation schedule, where we are giving 8 minutes to any of the departments that are requesting one position, an additional 4 minutes to those that are requesting 2, and then an additional 4 from that for any department or division requesting 3 positions. So the dates and times are given here. Like I said, we've already approved this. And as you can tell, they're going to be very packed meetings, and it's going to be a quick turnaround between the different presentations. Other things that we need to discuss today and go over. We can go over briefly the criteria for faculty rankings, and anybody can ask questions about the criteria now. We'll also discuss the WOPAT method that we've used for a number of years. Our new senators may have questions about that method, as well as one of the things that we must decide is whether or not we're going to hear the dean's rankings before we commit to our ranking process. So with that, there was a number of attachments, and I'd like to open the floor now for either questions up front, or if somebody would like me to walk through the criteria or the method, please ask me to do so now.
Can you go through the detail?
Sure, the criteria.
Sure, yes.
So this criteria is adopted from our previous criteria. So as you can see, it's updated from fall 2019. And we've been using this for a number of years and adjusting it here and there. And so, you know, we're all going to come to the faculty ranking process with our own experience, our own biases, our own ways of thinking. But these have been adopted by the Academic Senate previously as kind of our guiding principles of how and why we should be ranking. Like I said, we're all going to come here with our own biases, but at the same time, we are doing this ranking as a collective group for the benefit of the college and not necessarily our own department or division. So in no particular order, the criteria are given: meet student demand, impact on student success, difficulty finding adjunct faculty. In some disciplines, finding adjunct faculty is extremely easy, or not extremely easy, but easier than other disciplines. And this will be part of not only the narrative that was provided in the packet that Bea put together for us so nicely, but also part of the presentation process. A number of the different department chairs and presenters ask me, you know, what do I even give for my presentation? And my advice is always, make sure you are referencing what's unique about your department and what's unique about finding faculty for your discipline, and also anything that hasn't been highlighted in the narrative or other confounding factors for you. The numbers will be given in the packet, but the presentations will really be a good time for that oral presentation, that oral narrative of what's important. Other things to keep in mind, I think, although it's not explicitly stated here, this was, you know, adopted from last year again, but equity and those anti-racism ideas that we're always discussing at the Senate table should come into mind, as well as one thing I think is on top of a lot of people's mind this year is also program elimination through attrition. You're going to see there was a number of retirements through the SERP, and we're looking at some of our programs going, potentially not being filled, and which might mean that the program doesn't have any full-timers to carry it forward. So in addition to the other things listed here, that's what we're looking at. The definition, I won't go through each bullet point specifically. The definitions are also provided here. These definitions are particularly helpful for making heads and tails of the quantitative data provided in the report that Bea put together for all of the proposals. So the numbers that you're given: full-time faculty, adjunct faculty, total full-time equivalent faculty. So that's how many full-timers you effectively have if you add up all the adjuncts. And then a number of percentages and ratios as well. Patricia, did you want to add something? I saw your hand up. I don't know what else to go into. It's almost like it's hard to explain until you've are into it. Patricia.
You said exactly what I was going to say about the definitions. We did this 2 years ago because we had senators who were already into their reading, and they said, this is alphabet soup. I have no idea what these things mean. So this is meant to help you with the alphabet soup as you go through all of this. But you already said that, Ray, so thanks.
Yeah. Coolness. So with that, is there any more questions about the criteria, or does anybody want to discuss anything from this document specifically? Jenny?
So I think you might have said this in the second that I had to go get my kid a snack, about what our role as senators are, especially if like our department is going for a position. I'm just wondering how I navigate that and how we all navigate that, because obviously we want to vie for our departments, but I also don't want to look like unprofessional and as though that's my sole goal in this process. So I'm just trying to figure out how I navigate that while looking, you know, communal and not like a jerk.
Well, you won't look like a jerk, Jenny. I mean, part of this is why, like, no one senator, how do I say this? Our rankings are averaged, first of all, and we have this WOPET method to try and create. The WOPET method tries to ensure that no one senator, you know, puts something, how do I say this? No one senator has sway either way of a position. They can't take a position and they can't give a position. I'd like to hear from other senators to answer Jenny's question for this one. When I was at the Senate table, I always thought of it, you know, not to sound incredibly altruistic, but I always thought of it as like for the greater good, like what's best for the college, right? But that is always a conversation for senators. Do you represent your division? Do you have more information because you're at the Senate table? In my opinion, I would urge all senators not to solely vote for their department or division, right? But there's something to be said about that as well. Patricia, you want to add to this?
Yeah, we don't, for those of you who have not been through this before, you're not voting up or down any one position. What you're going to be doing is ranking. And Jenny, I totally get that. My division, I'm in a particularly tricky spot this time with my division having a bunch of people. And also, like Ray saying, trying to keep the bigger good in mind. What you're going to do is you're going to rank. So it is entirely possible to use your ranking to kind of come to a combination of serving your division and serving the greater good of the college.
Ruth?
What Patricia said, and also it's the role of whoever comes to pitch the position to try to convince Senate, right? So it's not as much your role. I don't think it's our role as senators, right? In our ranking, which won't even be disclosed. You could vote completely opposite of what your division wants. You could.
Nobody would ever know.
Right. But it is the role of whoever's coming to pitch it, right? To get the points across.
Yes, we vote by secret ballot, but I'm almost sure that it has to be public if inquired. Is that true, Patricia? Yeah. So yeah, like we always vote by secret ballot, but it's also public. Previously, when we were all face to face, everybody would get assigned a number and that's how we would vote. This time around, I'm going to do it by Google form. But unless requested, I wasn't going to share how the voting went. Okay, other comments and considerations? Patricia, you're muted.
Trying to go back and forth. This will be my 10th year that I'm on the Academic Senate, and never in the 10 years I'm aware of has anybody asked to see the ballots. But technically, it's a vote.
It's 2020.
Yeah.
Michelle?
No, I just wanted to kind of go back to what Jenny was asking. I've been on the Senate, and when the ADM program has requested positions, and I had those same questions of how do you do this, or how do you feel, and I was struggling with the same thing. But when I found, what I found for myself was listening to the presentations, you did go back to that. What is the best thing for the college, and really listening to how programs would be impacted, and try to evaluate it that way. So I think everybody is pretty altruistic when they do this, no matter if they have a department that is vying for a position. I think that's just how it turns out from my experience.
Ruth?
And I think that if there's ever a time where taking that type of position matters, it's now, right? Because of the budget crunch that we're in. So we do definitely, I think, need to take more of a holistic approach. That's one thing. And then the other thing is we're going to get a thick packet for us to, or maybe a PDF. Yeah, PDF for us to review. So it's important. We might be tempted not to review it until the night before, but to look at it, with thought and give ourselves some time so that we come prepared with questions, right? Because that's how we'll be able to reveal, get that information that we need in order to make a better judgment, better assessment.
Yeah, Bea made it for us. It's attached to the agenda today. Ruth's right. In previous years, it's been a thick packet because we've been face-to-face and we've always been provided a hard copy. This year, because we're not face-to-face and everybody's remote, Bea put this together. I think it's amazing and excellent. I absolutely love it. So when you first open it, it's only is it 2 pages, 3 pages? I guess it's 4 pages. So it's a couple page document. She calls it the table of content, and it lists in alphabetical order, not in our order, not in our schedule, but in alphabetical order, the proposals. And it says what page it's on in the table of contents. So for instance, art is on page 2. Okay, that's not number of positions, that's the page number. So you come down to it, to page 2, you find art. Bea put in the details. They are requesting 2 positions. And when you click on it, it links to art's proposal. So I absolutely love this since we're all remote. One thing you might want to do, and it's not blank, it's just art has a really nice cover page. One thing that you all might want to do is download all of these different proposals as PDFs. I know a number of you have tablets, iPads, what have you. Use Notability or some app to write all over them. I wouldn't print them all out. It's dozens of pages of narrative and data and qualitative, or excuse me, qualitative data about people's departments. So that's how I would do it, but feel free to work with this as you see fit. Jenny? You're muted.
I'm gonna ask a question that's gonna be totally stupid now, I think.
Love it. Go for it.
Are we supposed to, and are we going to have time in the timeline to talk about our rankings with our division? And what information or materials are we allowed to share with them, if so, to gather their feedback about informing our ranking?
I'll give you my answer to that, but again, if somebody else wants to jump in and provide Jenny with their opinion and their insight on this, cool. When I was doing this as a senator, I did not share out with my division. Many in the division, no one in the division showed up for the presentations in particular. And really, if somebody's doing a good job creating their presentation is augmenting on the proposal, right? So you as a senator should, like Ruth mentioned, go through the proposals, fine-tooth comb, educate yourself about each individual proposal. It should take time, should take effort, and then you're going to be present for the presentation itself. So you are going to have a unique perspective on the proposals and the ranking. My fear is if you go back to your division or department and say, here's how I'm doing it, they're not going to have the same information and done the same amount of work you have. So that's just one way to think about it. But again, if somebody else would like to give Jenny advice or offer the same view or a different view, please feel free to go ahead. Everyone agrees with me, Jenny. That's the silence. Okay, anyone else on this matter? Should we talk about our ranking method? I'm seeing a thumbs up. All right, so our ranking method. So I'll close this document. I'll close our schedule. That's our minutes. Am I still screen sharing? No, I'm not. Okay, go back to screen sharing. All right, so our methods for ranking. The way we do our ranking is depending on the number of positions, we either rank with 1s, 2s, and 3s, 1s, 2s, 3s, and 4s, or 1, 2, 3s, 4s, and 5s. So I believe we have 22 positions. So we're going to be ranking with 1s, 2s, 3s, and 4s. Meaning, and I can't remember the number off the top of my head. I'll come forward with this when I have the ballot ready for you all after the second day of proposals, presentations in October. What you'll do is you'll give, let's say, 5 1s, 5 2s, 7 3s, and 5 4s to your different positions. So 1s are ranked highest, meaning those are the ones that you think should get the most or be ranked with most priority. Let's use that language, where the 4s are the least priority. And then everybody's ballot is added up. Now for a department like, let me think of a good one. I feel like art isn't a great one because one position for art is a sculpture position or a fine arts position, where the other one is a art history position. So I feel like that might be a little bit different, but what's one with 2 off? I can't think of one with, like, let's say there's a department with 2 positions that are identical or near identical. So let's say the Academic Counseling Center, they're going to be asking for 2 counselors. We're going to designate one as Academic Counseling Center position 1, and then the other one is Academic Counseling Center position 2. So there will be a check on the ballot, and that's what I'm going to do. I don't vote, so that's why I'm going to be the one that does it, the impartial person. I'll do a check to make sure that everybody is ranking the first position with the higher priority number. So let me explain this differently for those of you that aren't either a numbers person or that I'm not explaining this well for. So academic counseling has 2 positions and they're pretty much equivalent. We don't want one senator designating the quote second position with a higher priority number than the first one, and then everybody else doing the opposite, because that will average out in a way that doesn't make one of the positions the priority one. I still feel like I didn't get it. Does anybody have questions on that? Do I need to say that again? I feel like
Could I ask?
Yes.
Just to clarify. So
Yeah.
you like academic counselor 1, academic counselor 2, and then people would rank the number 1 position and the number 2 position however they want.
No, what I'm saying is that they're, no, not how they want. It will be like, I mean, yes, they can rank them how they want, but for each individual ballot, they can't do the second one with a higher ranking.
Okay.
Did I get it that time? I still feel like it's not clear.
Got it. I got it. I got it.
Robbie?
Maybe one way to think about it is that if most of us decided that Academic Counseling Center needed 1 position, we don't want some of us saying it should be position 1 and some of us saying it should be position 2, and both of them therefore ranking really low. So
Right.
it's a way of
Not splitting the vote.
which is which.
There we go. Not splitting the vote. Exactly.
Yeah. Right.
Yep.
Okay.
Woo! Thank you, everyone, for that. Okay, other questions?
Actually, sorry, I do have one more question.
Never
So
apologize.
this,
Go ahead.
this would only be for positions where they're essentially equivalent. The art position, as you expressed, was different, so then those would be treated as different positions. I mean, you know what I mean.
Yes, I would think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And they'll be designated as such. Yes. Other questions on the ranking? No? Let's scroll up. Okay, I think we're good on that. Okay, so, oh, Patricia Stark. Go ahead, Patricia.
Just to try to allay anxiety about this, folks, this will be actually much simpler when you have the ballots in front of you. We have different color ballots for the different levels of ranking because we carve off the top and then we do another ranking. We'll have different color ballots. Ray will explain these directions very explicitly in terms of this number of ones, this number of 2, this number of 3. So right now it sounds like a lot, but when we're actually doing it, it's very much step by step with each step described, I think, pretty clearly. We typically, with the exception of people who like really screw up their ranking, it's been a pretty straightforward, and that's happened once in a number of different years. It's pretty straightforward and actually pretty easy to work your way through it.
Yes, agreed. Cornelia?
I wanted to check back on what you just said before Patricia's comment. And that is when a department has 2 positions or is asking for 2 positions, but the 2 positions are kind of different. And I think what I heard was that there would not be a position 1 and a position 2, if I heard that correctly, but they would be somehow separate. I'm just trying to visualize how we are doing this.
So for academic counseling, assuming they're going to come forward with generic academic counselors, which I think they are. I don't think they have specialized counselors within ACC. So it would be designated as ACC position 1 and ACC position 2. But within art, 1 is for an art historian to replace Thomas Larson. And 1 is for a replacement for Christopher Bates, who is a sculpturist.
Sculptor.
Sculptor. There we go. I'm so sorry. I am a scientist. And so, that one would be designated as, I would think, art historian and sculptor. Does that make sense, Cornelia? It's kind of like what for those of you that were on the Senate last year, it's kind of like earth and planetary science has, geography that's unique and different than astronomy and geology, right? So just wanting to designate those positions differently. And in fact, Armando has asked if art can have 2 presenters. And I said, sure, as long as you're within the time limit. 1 for the historian position, 1 for the sculptor position. Okay, other questions?
Ray, I have a procedural question.
Sure.
Are we, those of us who are presenting, maybe this is an offline conversation, are we going to send our presentations to Chris, and she's going to get them all ready to go? Or are we going to be everybody going into their own drive at the beginning? How are we going to handle that?
I was going to do it today. In fact, a couple of the presenters and department chairs already reached out to me, and I said I wanted to wait until today's meeting to send out an email to give everybody the information at the same time. It will just be, you can drag and drop your presentation into a shared Google Drive. And during the meeting itself, I'll ask you all if you want to drive your own slides or if you want me to drive them, and we'll pull them up one by one.
Okay, thanks.
Yep. So with that, I think I've answered most of your questions. Again, like Patricia said, don't panic. It makes more sense as we're doing it. I'm just trying to get this conversation started today. One of the big things that we need to discuss and move on to at this point, I think, is the dean's ranking. Are we going to hear it before we do our own ranking? Are we not? Ruth.
So I have a very strong preference that we do get information from them, because in order to reveal our preferences and our ranking, we need complete information rather than not knowing and then potentially having some unknown constraints or outcomes that can would change things had we full information.
So we're hearing from Ruth. Ruth is in favor of hearing the dean's rankings. Robbie?
I am also in favor of it, but I wanted to point out what the argument against it was last time, just so people know, that the argument was that our position needs to come from an academic standpoint, a faculty standpoint, and that we can be influenced, we can and shouldn't be, the argument was, influenced by some other viewpoint. So I believe that we can handle that, and that we should have all the information, and we should make sure to keep our viewpoint where we want it to be, period. And then secondly, I wonder, do we have to move this to action, or how do we make a decision in this way? Or how do we make a decision about this since it's not an action item?
Well, Patricia, I don't think we need to move this to action. It's just, it's kind of like last time where we're just adopting the schedule.
You know what, honestly, it was contentious the last couple of years. So we did have a vote. And the reason for that is from time immemorial, we always heard the dean's rankings, or from Patricia's memory, we always had the dean's rankings. And then the last 2 years, we did not. So we required votes on that. But I'm not really here. I mean, we can just go ahead and agree to this on consensus, since these are really Senate protocol measures as opposed to things that require a motion, a second, whatever. So I think maybe let the discussion ensue. And if we don't hear anyone opposed to it, we could just agree by consensus to move in one direction or the other.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Okay.
So we've heard two people for hearing the deans. Michelle?
I would just like to support both Ruth and Robbie's point of view. I also would like to hear the dean's rankings, and I feel that we have the ability to make a decision without being influenced. But I think it's important for us to hear them.
Cool. So we've heard from 3 that are for. Kathy?
Yes, I'm another one that's in favor of this. We have heard the dean's rankings every year that I have been on the Senate, except for the last 2 years. And I think we're really at a disadvantage when we don't have all the information. They are academic deans also. They do have information that's useful to us. We can take it or leave it as we please, but I think the more information we have, the better in any situation. Thank you.
All right, so at this time we've heard from 4 people that are in favor of hearing the dean's ranking. I'd like to ask if there's anyone that is against hearing the dean's ranking prior to us making a ranking or us filling out our ballots.
So Ray, this is Russell. For those of you who can't see me, sorry, I don't actually have a camera on my computer here on campus. So I'm of the other position. I'm not able to hear something without having it influence me. I think it's a little disingenuous on my part to hear the dean's rankings say, hey, we're looking at this more significantly than this, and then I'm just going to ignore it. So I'm a firm believer of separation of powers. As the academic senate, we should come up with an academic recommendation. The deans come up with theirs. Ultimately, Dr. Goswami is going to decide what he decides. And I personally feel that it should be two completely unique and separate viewpoints that he gets to see.
Thanks for that, Russell. Is there anybody else that would like to share that similar sentiment? Okay. I don't have a horse in this game, but I feel similarly to Russell for what it's worth. But I think Russell and I are standing alone on that one. So, Patricia, we heard from Russell and we've heard from 4 pros. Should we do a formalized vote, or where are we at with this?
You know, Madam President, I think I'm going to leave that up to your discretion. You don't, you don't count, Ray. You don't get a vote. But I think you do get to call whether we want to do this. If we do want a motion, I would be happy to move that we agree for this year to hear the dean's rankings before we do our final rankings.
I would like a formal vote because
Okay.
so
moved.
We've only heard from 5,
Okay.
and there's 18 on the Senate. So let's get the votes out just in case somebody didn't want to share their thoughts. So
I second that motion.
great. So we have a motion made by Patricia to hear the dean's rankings prior to our own ranking. Robbie has seconded it. And this is Patricia, are we moving this to action? That was Robbie's specific question earlier. Is this a motion to move it to action and then vote on it, or can we vote on it from here because it's our own procedural thing?
We have to move it to action.
Okay, so the friendly amendment can be that you are moving this to action, right?
Yeah, actually, I'm going to withdraw that motion.
Okay.
I will move that we move to action the item on the agenda. I'm sorry, I don't have my agenda in front of me, about hearing the dean's rankings before doing our own faculty rankings.
All right. So,
and I'll second that.
so thank you for that. So Patricia's made a motion. Robbie has seconded it. Discussion. Ruth has her hand up. Go ahead, Ruth.
Just to explicitly say like how we would get that information. Is it literally going to be just a ranking? Is it going to be a PDF we assess, we review before?
Typically the EVP supplies us that data at the time of our ranking.
So it'll just be a 1, 2, 3, or it'll be this because of that, or we're wary of this, or here's a big concern here. That's my question.
It's in the past, Ruth, it's been a straight ranking. They literally, the EVP has literally said, in this order, this is the way we have ranked the requested positions. Number 1, journalism. Sorry, okay, I take that back.
But yeah,
you get my gist. Yeah,
it's a number list that we get before we rank without commentary.
It could just be a straight attachment in the materials that are shared with you. And I'm sure you're thinking through how to share ballots and how to make this work electronically, but that whatever version of a packet of information, it could just be an additional sheet.
Yeah, it's either a sheet or I remember people just reading the rankings out loud at the table.
And we will do as you wish if we go forward with this.
Kathy?
So we've had this happen in a variety of ways over the years. I remember when Jack used to come to the Senate, he would give an oral report and actually give some justifications for why the deans felt a certain way. Sometimes he didn't, but there sometimes were really pertinent reasons why they did certain things, and he would share that with us. Sometimes it's just a rank list. So it's been done in a variety of ways over the years.
Trisha?
So how much time between when we hear the dean's rankings and when we are actually giving our rankings? So in other words, we have time to, how much time will we have to reflect on what they've said?
None. It's going to be immediately before our rankings.
Okay.
That's going to be in the meeting when we are ranking together as a group.
I just wonder what the purpose then of it is, if you've already made up our minds about it, because we come in presumably with our rankings, and then we may hear something from that a dean presented, and I assume we probably wouldn't change our rankings unless it was something really like, oh, wow, I didn't know that. And we don't have any time to even think about it.
We could, guys, we could. I don't want to take the whole meeting on this because we really do need to get a decision before the 14th. We could ask for a straight ranking. We could ask for a ranking with a 1-sentence summary of what justified their particular placement. Not a whole long discussion, not Q&A, but just a very short statement supporting that ranking. That would be an option.
But to answer Trisha's question, there is not a lot of time.
Yeah, no, it's right after.
Well, I was saying that if it is possible to be part of the packet that Pamela was mentioning, to me, that seems like then I can choose to ignore it before I do my rankings, or I could kind of just do a little double check. Anyway, yeah, it's not that important.
Okay. Let's see. Ruth.
I think just a list is not very informative, especially when we're getting it right before. And so I'd prefer what Patricia was suggesting, even if it's something brief. And then what Kathy was saying, that's my first best, where they come in and briefly, not for too long, say, here, this is the issue, especially because I'm not sure if departments are in direct consultation when they're with their deans when they're coming and proposing. Like, how closely are they working together? So that's a concern that I have.
So I just want to point out the time. It's 3:53. We have a motion on the table to move this to action. We still have several people wanting to ask questions. Ellen.
Ray, can I point out that it would probably be more appropriate to move this to action, and then we can have a motion that would try to get us started on the discussion that we're having right now. Because right now I don't hear the feedback, including my own. It doesn't really have anything to do about whether we want to vote on this today.
I hear you. I didn't want to say that, but yes. The motion on the table is to move this to action. So is there discussion around that? I called on Ellen. Ellen?
I was just going to say what Ruth said.
Okay. Cornelia, you had your hand up as well?
No.
Okay.
Sorry, it was a mistake.
So without any more questions or comments, discussion at this time, we shall vote on this. Again, the motion on the table is to move this item to action. Cornelia?
Yes.
Counselor Jen?
Yes.
Ellen?
Yes.
Jenny?
Yes.
Patricia?
Yes.
Michelle?
Yes.
Savannah?
Yes.
Thanks, Savannah. Pam?
Yes.
Kathy?
Yes.
Robin?
Yes.
Jen?
Yes.
Robbie?
Yes.
Ruth?
Yes.
Tara?
Yes.
Russell?
Yes.
Trisha?
Yes.
And Anna?
Yes.
Okay, so this item is now in action. And again, the item in particular is to hear the dean's ranking before Senate ranks during our meeting. Patricia?
Yes, at this time, I would like to move that the Senate request that we hear the dean's rankings of positions, supported with a brief justification for each of those rankings. Immediately before the Academic Senate engages in its own ranking.
Thank you. So a motion has
Second
been made.
that.
Sorry, Robbie, did you say you were going to second that?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Discussion on this item.
For clarity, she said.
I can read it again, Ruth. Give me a second. I'm
Thank you.
writing it out as I go. Okay, that we request hearing the dean's rankings of positions, comma, supported by a brief justification of each rank, immediately before the Senate engages in its own ranking.
And that'll be a written form?
I did not specify that. I think that's really up to the EVP, how they want to present it. You want me to include that in the motion? How they present it?
If this motion were to pass, the EVP would have both a written and an oral, and you all can decide outside of this vote. Because the EVP can't be trusted to keep track of 22 positions in order without it written down somewhere. It'll be written.
So a motion has been made and seconded by Robbie. Is there any more discussion? I'm not hearing a call for any more discussion, so I'd like to move this to vote. Okay. Cornelia?
Yes.
Counselor Jen?
Yes.
Ellen?
Yes.
Jenny?
Yes.
Tricia?
Yes.
Michelle?
Yes.
Ivana?
Yes.
Pam?
Yes.
Kathy?
Yes.
Robin?
Yes.
Jen B?
Yes.
Robbie?
Yes.
Ruth?
Yes.
Kara?
Yes.
Russell?
No.
Tricia?
Yes.
Anna?
Yes.
Okay, with that, the motion passes. Okay. All right. Going back to our agenda. At this time, we have finished up item 8.1. We have a couple of minutes to dive into item 8.2. Hopefully you all took a little bit of time to familiarize yourselves with this item. Specifically, right now, RAP on distance education, it is felt by some, does not clearly state that Canvas must be used to teach, and that the deans can drop in to your quote virtual class in a similar fashion that they could drop into your face-to-face class when meeting in person on campus, as in walking by your class. So a proposal has come forward to create language for both of those different items. The proposed language has been given here in blue. Please know that the proposed language is just that, proposed language by us as a Senate. This language has not been initiated in any of our shared governance processes. So after our discussion today at the Senate, the BPAP reps, which include myself, Patricia Stark, as well as Christopher Brown from English, will bring this forward to BPAP to go through our shared governance processes. If you'd like more background, I can give it to you. Right now, the steering felt very strongly, or not strongly, I don't think that's fair. Steering felt as though because the language was not there, or not there specifically and clearly, that we can't move forward with implementing this until the spring of 2021. I'd like to share with you that I feel much differently about this than others. I have a very strong opinion that there is no reason to wait, that the Senate could make a declarative statement if the Senate chooses to say that faculty need to be using their Canvas shells this semester. I feel very strongly that this is an equity issue, that faculty shouldn't just be teaching their classes via email. So with that, now that you know my druthers on this item, and now that you know why it's coming forward to the Senate, I'll open it up for discussion. Patricia Stark, you had your hand up first. Go ahead.
Yeah, very briefly, I just, what I'd like to do is, I would really like to have the Senate tell us what you want to do, but then, I mean, I just wrote this language, and I am not a DE expert. We have people on COI, we have people on AP. I'd like to be able to just maybe authorize the BPAP representatives to pull together some of our faculty leaders on these relevant committees, just to help us craft the language. Not a big deal, just a meeting where we could get some, make sure that our language is as good as it needs to be. And then that's how we would move forward. But we would bring that language back to Senate. I just want to say the language I've included in here is very high. It could be better, and we can make it better.
And the policy change again would be for spring.
Yes.
And I don't feel comfortable with our students being in classes right now that are being taught solely by email. But maybe I'm on an island with that view. Cornelia.
So the business division is totally in favor of adding this requirement for using our learning management system Canvas. I'm now I was just a little bit confused. You said there was a second change, and that has to do with the deans having access to the classes, that this was changed too. Where is that in blue?
Page 4. Or wait, no, sorry.
Guys, I have to confess to a miscommunication here. I was not clear from our steering meeting that I was to draft that language.
Oh.
So it's not included at this time, Cornelia.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Oh, okay, that clarifies my confusion now. Okay.
Okay.
My confusion, not your confusion.
Sorry. Yeah, I thought it was in here, so I guess it's not in here. But that would be another recommendation coming forward if the Senate is of that persuasion. Kathy?
Okay, so maybe a little bit of history on this policy. This policy was actually written by members of COI with Kenley Neufeld when he was co-chair. It went through ITC and came to the Senate. So at the time, this was before everybody was online, there were some faculty that felt that they should not be required to use the learning management system. And there were a lot of faculty that felt that the deans should not be coming into their classes. Now, I'm not giving you an opinion about it. I'm just telling you that those were some of the issues. We felt at the time, in order to get a policy through that had some good language in it, particularly about the course quality standards, that the authentication guidelines from the feds, the federal government, which is right there on your screen, was enough to assure that all classes should actually be handled through our learning management system, because we deemed Pipeline to not be adequate for those authentication requirements. So that's how we handled it. We felt that at that point, the administration had enough authority to actually tell our faculty that we needed to use the Canvas system, even if it was to possibly link to personal websites that some faculty had already developed. On the dean's intrusiveness into our classes, again, that was very controversial. We did not go there in this policy. So I think that's another issue that we probably needs to have fairly broad discussion. I think for sure probably department chairs should have access, but that would be part of that discussion also. So the other part of it is that there is language already in policy that requires us to use Pipeline email for emailing and receiving any communication from our students. That was another issue that I think some people have said that wasn't anywhere in our guidelines, in our policies, but it actually is. So that's the history of the authentication language.
Got it. Thanks for that, Kathy. I'm going to just put on my department chair hat for a moment. I'm fielding complaints from some students saying that they can't access their class and that labs aren't taking place and things like that. And there is this question of how do I confirm that? And so that's part of this discussion as well. Like I said, right now we have students that are being taught classes via email. Jennifer, is this Counselor Jen? I think it is, just says Jennifer.
Yes, sorry. Yeah. Thank you. You know, I just want to kind of echo what you were talking about with students. As an academic counselor, you know, we tell students in our class planning that classes, you know, be checking for their online classes. This is prior to COVID, with checking their Canvas, working with their, you know, their instructor in the class within Canvas. So that's kind of what we tell all of our students. So for students to now be taught via email, which I've had a lot of student complaints this semester. Students who are on the Promise are getting dropped from the Promise because they didn't check in with an email rather than they were trying to find the Canvas shell for the class and figuring something was wrong and working with admissions, et cetera. So I just, from the student services perspective, students are having a lot of issues with, you know, we're being communicated one thing and then it not turning up to be that way, and then instructors doing Google Docs or emails.
Thank you for
Thank
sharing
you.
that, Jennifer. I really appreciate that. Robbie?
Yeah, I think it might be helpful for people to hear this characterization that came out at Steering about this, that academic freedom doesn't give us the ability to teach our lectures in Pig Latin, nor to, when we were face-to-face, to hold our lectures at IHOP. So this, I agree with you strongly, Ray, that we are not allowed to do this. And it seems like there are two issues then. One is we can amend this AP, or we can ask for it to be amended so that in the future we can prevent it. But I agree that something needs to be done about it now. And I don't know that this is it, but I don't know what it would be. So maybe I would like that to be added to this conversation.
So just as a time check, the time is now 4:08. Thanks for that, Robbie. Trisha.
Sorry. Yeah, so I wondered does this apply to classes that are, well, in non-credit, that students are required to be synchronous, you know, so they need to log in every day? Because I can see this as a problem, maybe if it's applying to all courses, or just if it's applying to classes that are solely online, or classes that are hybrid where students have to log in to check in with the instructor. Is there any distinction between that in this document? Did that make sense? I'm sorry, you called on me sooner than I was anticipating.
This is a distance ed policy for any course that fits within the distance ed modality. That would include hybrids. That would include synchronous, asynchronous, hybrids, the works.
Okay, so that might be an issue for non-credit, because we were told at one point that we shouldn't use Canvas because that encourages students to be logging in or participating in class activities outside of our class where we can't claim apportionment. And majority of us have not been trained to use Canvas. So I don't know if there needs to be a little exception or a little nuancing of the wording to acknowledge that current state of how non-credit interacts with Canvas, or doesn't, I should say.
Yeah, Pamela, you have your hand up. Did you want to address that?
I have my hand up for a big thing, but I can help us with this. Non-credit is mostly teaching under a very emergency waiver blanket. 98% of what non-credit is doing is never intended to fit within our distance education guidelines. And so they're working under some very special rules. So we do have non-credit distance ed that we submit via non-credit distance ed apportionment. It follows a different set of rules. But the synchronous class in non-credit ceramics is never, ever going to fit into 4105. So the best practices in 4105 that can apply back to the emergency work in non-credit, we should use all of those. But what we don't want to do is disrupt a system that we've gotten clearance for in a positive attendance framework, and then somehow disrupt that. So I can help, if we go further along with this, I can help to make sure that we're navigating what we agreed to with the state and how we're working with our non-credit colleagues in this.
Okay, yeah, that's just all I would say, is I just didn't want it to be that it's codified, that it's required to do something, and then not, you know, as long as there is some acknowledgement of that in the wording, that there is an exception. Okay, thank you.
So just a time check again, it's 4:11. Ruth?
So in terms of requiring the use of Canvas, I'm definitely supportive of that, especially you mentioned the equity issues because, you know, well, I don't think I need to explain that, but also the mental health issues, right? So if we're asking students, check your email and check Google Classroom because we happen to have an adjunct who's a high school teacher and that's what they use there. So I think that could be a lot of stress load on students. So that's a big concern that I have. My concern in terms of activating a policy now is the semester has already started, right? But I also get that some people are getting, some students are getting poor delivery. But I do have to say that that is one concern. And that no matter what we do, we should have, whether we have an emergency policy now, a formal decision in procedure decided upon by the end of this term, effective spring. So that's one thing about Canvas or the LMS. Second thing about deans, which I think this is what Pamela may be wanting to talk about, is their ability to go into our shells, right? That if and when they do that, that we need to make sure that it states that evidence that it's well documented, right? Evidence that protocol has been adhered to, right? That they're not just jumping in, that it went through every single part of the complaint process or the grievance process in order to get to that point.
Thanks for that, Ruth. You know, I totally get that we want to wait and make this for the spring, but I just want to remind everyone, and I'm not adhering to my own ethos as an academic senate president right now by coming out so strongly about my views on this, but I feel very strongly that as an academic body that is in charge of professional matters, that yes, policy, we can get that in place for spring, but I don't see that there's anything wrong with this body proclaiming today, whether it be via motion and a statement, to say that it is unacceptable to teach a class via email. And yes, okay, the semester already started, but we all went through training this summer. We all went through the training. If you weren't already a distance education instructor, you spent hours learning it. So I just am a little bit frustrated that we can't say you got to use this. Like Robbie said, we also can't teach in Pig Latin. So I just don't understand. And maybe that's a false equivalency. I don't know.
I guess my question was more, can we do that when the semester's already started?
Well,
it sounds like we can.
I don't, well, I mean, is it going to hold up in, you know, a court of law? I don't know, but I think that as a professional body, we can say like, hey, use Canvas, right? Like, why can't we say as the academic senate, please use Canvas? Like, I don't think that, and I'm not saying that we're going to fire you if not. I'm not saying that we have that ability, but what I'm saying is we are the body for academic professional matters, and I don't understand why we can't proclaim this professional matter. I guess that's where I'm, especially when students are getting, excuse my language, screwed in the meantime. Yep. Pamela?
Thank you. I want to take 2 steps back and remind us that the vast majority of our colleagues are doing a fabulous job in this interim move online. The vast majority of our courses are plugging along just great. No dean wants to hang out and lurk in a Canvas shell just to see if something's wrong. Frankly, they're way too busy to be doing that level of working. But right now we can't do something that is akin to stopping by Tuesday at 3 o'clock to see if so-and-so's in class. So even that piece doesn't really work right now, just to make sure that things are actually working the way they're supposed to work. And we made some assumptions about what this policy did during a time period that everybody who wanted to teach online was opting in. So the folks who were doing that work were already kind of part of a system and a culture around distance education. And then we took 95% of you and asked you to immediately immerse yourselves into this world. So having a Senate statement about what that means and clarifying something we thought was pretty clear, I think is an okay thing to do right now. So even the superintendent president got an emergency declaration from the board. Our chancellor's office has given us emergency capacity to be responsive to changes in policy and procedure during an enormous pandemic, right? These are not normal days and normal times that we're working with. And we want to be able to make sure this is working before a student complaint has made it all the way to my office. That's an enormous amount of effort. And when we think about equity, the person most primed to be able to make a complaint that goes that far is the person who's the least vulnerable in a class. So I want us to be a little more attentive to consistency, which Ruth talked about. Students should be working across classes in a way that they know how to get into the room, they know how to sit in the room, they know how to take notes, and they know how to leave the room. And Canvas is the room for us. And we don't let people teach at IHOP. You don't get to teach in your backyard. You teach in a place that we fund with taxpayer dollars, and we make sure everybody's there. So we have two things that we need to tighten up in this policy before AP and COI could take a look and make this even better, because we've learned so much in the last 8 months. The two things really are, everybody's using Canvas. Even if they're not using it well, they ought to be emailing the crazy stuff out of Canvas. Regular and effective contact needs to happen. It happens in there. And Dean should be able to stop by and check on. And I think we might want to add the chair piece in there, so that if it's a first level concern, the chair can just make sure, is this set up? And we could work through that. We could draft some language to make sure the protocol prohibits Dean lurking behaviors, the way Ruth was saying. We want to make sure that all the levels get touched before somebody starts to drop in on someone. Thank you.
Thanks, Pamela. So the time is now 4:18. We have a number of hands up, and we do have a scheduled presentation. So at this time, I want to make sure that those of you that have your hand up are adding something new to the conversation and asking yourself if you really have to say something at this time, because clearly we have to table this conversation and revisit it. When are we going to revisit it? I don't know, but it's clear that it's not going to be wrapped up today, to me at least. So with that, Anna?
Not adding a ton of new, but I think there's room to be flexible with what people need to do to teach and still use Canvas. I think expecting students to keep up on their email with the enormous amount of email that they're getting from all directions, you know, from events to important information, and knowing that their grade depends on their ability to sort through those emails is totally inequitable and totally unfair. And I highly support that we put forward a statement that says you need to be on Canvas. And if you have other formats where you're teaching, you can link those in Canvas so students know how to access them, and you can still communicate with them through Canvas, but it's unacceptable.
Thank you, Anna. Patricia?
Sorry, guys, 3 things. One is there's absolutely no problem with us putting forth a statement encouraging all of our faculty to use Canvas. We cannot at this point require it because it's just simply not enforceable at this point. I was in a summer training this summer with a lot, it was one of those really mega ones, and with a lot of adjunct faculty. And I have to tell you, the level of ignorance about that, not lack of knowledge, was very, very high. So yes, I would support that. The other thing is that we have, in terms of student complaints and the deans, whatever need to intrude into an online class, I'd like to say right now AP 5530 is the student rights and grievances, which sets up a very clear protocol for grievances. And that is, first you go to the teacher, then you go to the department chair, then you go to the dean. And if that's not resolved, then you kick it up further, even higher. Why could we not simply reproduce that process for complaints? This morning, I got a complaint about, well, not detail, but a complaint about a person teaching in my department. First thing I did is I set up a Zoom appointment for the morning. I'm the department chair. So we have something in place. It's not in this policy, but it's something that we could just tell the administration, follow these same guidelines. If there's a problem, talk to the department chair. And then the third thing, guys, is we really need to move ahead, because if we do want to put some teeth in these things for for spring, we need to get started working on that. So at a very minimum, if we could agree to what we agree, if we could agree to what we want in concept, then we could pull together a work group to work on the language and bring that forward in a timely way. And then we could get a lot of these corrections in place for the spring. Thank you.
Robin?
Sorry, I apologize for taking time that I know we don't have. I just wanted to add, because I committed to a member of my division that I would bring this forward, that if deans are to be given permission to pop into Canvas, that there be some parameters set on what they're looking for, some clear expectations for faculty on what they're looking for. It shouldn't just be a, I was looking around at everything in the Canvas shelf. So that's it.
Thanks, Robin. Tara.
Hi, everyone. I serve on the help team for the emergency DE. And I've been working with a lot of faculty. I work on the equity question specifically. And so I work constantly with faculty about how to integrate Canvas into their online classroom. And I really want to urge the Senate to make the motion that we require faculty to use Canvas, because we also at DAC need backup. We need to be able to enforce what we're telling faculty we should be doing as best practice. And I see nothing in the language here that says that a faculty has to use all tools in Canvas. If there are certain features in Canvas you don't like, don't use it. If it doesn't work for you, don't use it. But to ensure equity for our students and equitable access to our classes, we need to really have both CAC and the Senate all coming, and AP all coming together to support that decision. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Tara, for bringing that viewpoint. I couldn't agree more. Robbie?
I move to move this to action so that we can vote on such a statement.
I second.
We have a motion on the table made by Robbie with a second by Ellen to move this to action. Is there any discussion on the motion to move this to action? Russell, I see your hand up. Perhaps Russell wants to say something about the concept and not necessarily the motion. Wondering if that's true.
So, yeah, my hand's been up for a while, and my plan was, so if we're stuck talking about the motion, it's too late. I'll wait.
Okay, you can bring it up when it's an action item. Kathy?
I'm confused about what statement we're actually voting on. Did somebody make an official statement besides just that we want everybody to use Canvas? I mean, what does that mean? What if they're not using Canvas? What do we do? I didn't hear any specific statement.
Well,
like a resolution.
There aren't a lot of specifics because we're not an enforcement body, and I don't want it to be a resolution because that takes weeks and weeks and second readings and whatnot. My intention in making the motion was just that we make a statement which says maybe literally or nearly literally all faculty should use Canvas, period.
Robbie, just a suggestion that might not be the motion. So I was going, if you added, must use Canvas, department chair is the first level of recourse for students to access the Canvas shell should there be a complaint, and that the department chair would then have to request dean access if they cannot get far enough. So it would be 3 steps. It would be must use Canvas, the department chair is your first recourse and has access to that Canvas cell. And if you cannot reach a resolution, you request the dean to intervene and have access to that Canvas cell. That was going to be my motion. So maybe if you amended your motion with this, that would be clear.
If that gets it passed and gets us moving on, I'm happy to do that.
So it sounds like the person who made the motion, Robbie, is agreeable to that friendly motion. We also need Ellen, who seconded it, to be agreeable to that. Okay, great. Cornelia, thank you, Russell, for that. Cornelia, you raised your hand. Do you have a discussion point on moving this item to action?
Yes. Can we, once we have moved it to action, maybe first hear the FA presentation, or at least Jeff's part, because Jeff has to go back to his class.
Got
He's
it.
on break.
Got it. Yes, thank you, Cornelia. We
That
do
would be
have
great, thank you.
Okay, so we're moving this to action. Or excuse me, we're voting on moving to this action. So with that, roll call voting. Yay or yes, no, or abstention. Cornelia. Was that a yes, Cornelia?
Yes.
Okay. Jennifer.
Yes.
Ellen?
Yes.
Jenny Baxton?
Yes.
Patricia?
Yes.
Michelle?
Yes.
Ivana?
Yes.
Pam?
Yes.
Kathy?
Yes.
Robin?
Yes.
Jen?
Yes.
Robbie?
Yes.
Ruth?
Yes.
Kara?
Yes.
Russell?
Yes.
Trisha?
Yes.
And Anna?
Yes.
Excellent. We have an item that is now in action. And because we have our timed item, we are going to table that for a moment. I'm going to allow Cornelia to be a co-host somehow. How do I do that? I should know how to do this.
Go
Cornelia,
to participants.
yeah, I'm in there. Huh. Christina, can you make her a co-host? Why don't I have privileges? Aren't I the...
I just did.
Okay, you just did. Could you also make Jeff Gray a co-host? Excellent, thank you. So with that, we'll turn it over to Jeff and Cornelia for their FA presentation for us. Thank you both for being here. Well, I guess Cornelia, you're here already, but thank you nevertheless, of course.
Shared my screen. Can you all see it?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. All right, so Jeff and I are here to give you a short, brief update of where we are from, oh, come on. Okay, so sorry guys. Right, so from where we came from on December 4th, 2019. That was the day when the Senate voted to transition the following items from administrative procedures to the Faculty Association contract, also known as the Collective Bargaining Agreement, or CBA. The vote was that those portions of AP 7210 academic employees for faculty that address TLU limits are moved into the CBA, that all of AP 7151 evaluation of faculty are moved into the CBA, and the Senate also voted to recommend that the district provide appropriate compensation to the FA board as it takes on these extra duties. Subsequently, the FA amended its bylaws. First of all, we created a consultation council made up of one representative from each academic division, also known as the Santa Monica model, because they have that in place already. Our first meeting is currently scheduled for the October 23rd, 2020 of that new body. We also added 2 new positions to the FA Executive Board, one full-time and one part-time, in the upcoming elections, and those elections just happened about 2 weeks ago. So we have our new board in place, and on next Friday, this Friday, we are going to have our first meeting with the new board with officer elections. We also formed a work group to review AP 7151 and work on improved evaluations policies. The work group consisted of Carmen Rivero, myself, Ellen Carey, Jeff Gray. Jeff Gray has been chairing this committee, this work group, and Ellen O'Connor has joined us on a consultation basis. So, and now I'm jumping to 3 slides because Jeff has to leave. He put his students, he has asked his students to take a break. So he needs to go back. Jeff, go ahead and let me know when I should go and move the slides.
Okay, thanks, Cornelia. Yeah, so I just want to talk about what our committee has been doing. And I want to first start off by saying, when we're migrating AP 7151 into the contract, we're not looking to change it too much, right? It's already been very successful for us for quite some time. And so we're not looking to like make a crazy modification to it. With that said, so our guiding principles for what we want to do is we want to make sure the evaluations are faculty driven, which AP 7151 does a good job of. That it's focused on continuous improvement and professional development, which AP 7151 sort of hints at, but it's not always done that way in practice. So we're going to try and clarify that in our new framework. And we want extra clarity, as you'll see in the upcoming slides. That turns out to be really important. And the well-organized and consistently scheduled, I think we can all agree on. Can you get the next slide, Cornelia? So yeah, so our number one, well, so here's our work group. We've got Ellen O'Connor Consulting. She's been really helpful. We talked to a consultant about maybe looking at our procedures. That didn't, it was kind of helpful, but it didn't really go too far because he's very expensive. So I think we're probably gonna end up writing them without him, but if it turns out to be a problem, we might end up going back. We went to Ken Riles of, I'm forgetting the name of his organization, but it's a professional organization that does this sort of thing a lot. Yeah, can you go to the next slide? So the number one thing that we've noticed, at least from our perspective as a union, with the evaluation procedure is we would like to minimize grievances. We kind of get a lot of them, and lack of clarity in the rules is one big source of them. So we're trying to make them as clear as possible. There are a few places in AP 7151 where we feel like some clarity might be helpful, particularly in this third dash here, what constitutes a NI or an unsatisfactory, needs improvement or an unsatisfactory. It's not spelled out, right? It's really left up to the individual evaluator and evaluation committee, and that can lead to some problems. Some people feel that they're treated inequitably, and that is actually a thing in Ed Code, in the law, that is not acceptable. Everybody has to have access to equitable evaluations, and so not having that is a problem, and has actually led to lawsuits, I believe, which is not great. We want to talk, like, what do we do with the various elements of the evaluation? Which things are evaluated and which things are not? We can't write everything into the contract for sure, because that's just too much. And every division is different. Every department is different. They're all going to need different requirements. So we don't want to spend too much time trying to delineate everything, but some more clarity would really be helpful. These bullet points up here are a good summary of what we're looking for here. And then the other thing that gives us a lot of grievances is the evaluators and department chairs and deans not always following the rules. We've had problems with every part of this you can imagine. And every rule that can be broken has been broken at some point. And we get grievances for all of them. So we want to make sure that the evaluators are well trained. One, to minimize grievances, and two, just so you get consistent evaluations within a department at least, so that everybody's being evaluated according to the same standards, which again is part of the law. Next slide. The other thing that we have noticed is that there's not a lot of support for faculty in professional development, in the sense of professional development. It's really important to support all the faculty, even when they're not struggling, but particularly when they are. And because it is left vague about the way in which the support needs to be provided in the AP, it gets neglected because we have budget crunch, like always. And so things that are not specifically delineated as you must do this thing don't get done, right? Because we don't have the money. And so we want to get some amount of support in there. We haven't figured out the exact method for the support yet, but it needs to be in there. Another thing, which is kind of a bugaboo of mine, is that we only have plans for professional development, and we call them improvement plans now, if somebody is struggling, or somebody gets a needs improvement, right? That's the only time they get an improvement plan. And to me, that seems like a big problem, right? That gives you a disincentive to tell people to be open about your improvement. So like, let me make an analogy here. Imagine that in your class, you had a homework policy where students who were failing your class got homework, and those who were not failing did not get homework, right? That would be ridiculous. I hope everybody can agree that that is a terrible homework policy, but that's effectively what we do with evaluations, right? Somebody who has a needs improvement has a plan for improvement, and somebody who doesn't. And that's, I don't think that's good. We have some disagreements about this on the committee, though. I don't want to make this sound like a done deal. I think we might or might not end up having this in there, but it seems important to me. But again, we have some disagreements about that. And then the other thing we want to make sure that is really strongly in there is diversity in committee composition. It's been shown over and over again that especially women and ethnic minorities get discriminated against in evaluations, not necessarily directly, but just sort of implicit bias that works its way into the results. And we don't have any particular evidence that that's a special problem at SBCC, but we want to be really careful about it because it's basically a problem everywhere. So that's one of the things that we want to make sure of. We have an idea of that maybe allowing part-time faculty on committees, not requiring, but allowing, might be a good way to get some extra diversity onto the committee. So it's not all full-time perspective all the time. Some part-time could be helpful. We're not sure about that one yet, but definitely not on probationary committees, but potentially other ones. Next slide. We want to also obviously work on online instruction for evaluating online instruction. AP 4105 has a lot of details in there. It might go to the point where it's too specific about things that people need. But to be fair, all their details were covered in the training that we were just talking about. We've been asking our HIT department how we can improve our online evaluation because they have more experience in that sort of thing. We don't have too much on that yet, but this is another thing that we are looking to get in there. It's not in AP 7151 very much. Basically just a couple paragraphs or maybe one paragraph. I don't remember exactly. But yeah, we're looking to add that too. Next slide. All right, so here's where we're going. We have a survey that we are going to send out to people probably within the next few days, probably after our meeting on Friday would be my guess. It's very simple, just how happy are you with the evaluations? Tell us things that you think work and that don't work. And do you have any other thoughts, essentially? That's basically what we want to know from our faculty. We feel like we've done a lot of study on this, but we don't know everything. We certainly don't have every perspective, and so we want to know what other people think too, or what the faculty thinks too. We will talk to the FA Consultation Council that we have yet to make, I believe, about proposed adjustments. The council is supposed to be kind of a outreach body. That's the way we're going to use them, and so we're going to use them to solicit outreach from the various divisions, see what everybody's thinking about evaluations. Yeah, just sort of a go-between to help us get more directly connected to the faculty. Then we're going to write contract language. We don't have much of it written now. We're going to end up copying AP 7151 for a lot of it because, again, like I said, we generally like AP 7151. We just need to get it into, we just want to specify certain areas. We're going to make better forms. We kind of have a lot of forms now, but they also vary wildly, and some things where you really want forms, like just a general evaluation format. We don't have one. So we're going to make some of those. We're going to develop the training format that I mentioned for evaluators, and then negotiate with the district and ratify by the faculty. That's the plan. So we basically have a bunch of forms and what am I looking for here? We're going to make a handbook, among other things, that we have to get done before we can start negotiating. This is going to be a while. We're not that far into the language part of this, into the specifics. We're still mostly at the, here are the things that we want, and we're going to wrangle over, you know, what way things should be implemented before we start writing language, right? It's not a good idea to start trying to write language for stuff that you're not exactly clear on yet. All right. Sorry that went so fast. Like Cornelia said, I have to get back to class. Do you guys have any questions for me that you would like to ask before I go?
Yeah, Jeff. Yes, exactly. So I really appreciate you doing this. This is actually exactly what steering asked for. So I know Cornelia has some other slides, but I would, we specifically asked for an evaluation update. So this is exactly where our discussion should lie. You outlined a number of things that you're going to do. What is the timeline for that? Because as I understood it, we were going to be moving this to contract fall of 2020. So you're saying you're going to do these things, like, and you're right, policy and contract writing takes time. What is the timeline that you were all thinking and have been talking about?
I think I might have to refer that one to Cornelia, because we were going to try to get it by the end of summer, and that proved to be wildly unworkable. It was just not even close. So right now, so I'm not actually on the negotiation team. So Cornelia, maybe I can refer that to you.
I'd be happy. Whoops, what's happening with my computer? I'd be happy to speak to this. As Jeff said, our initial time horizon was that we wanted to have something done by the end of summer. The problem was really Corona hit. And the FA board, all of us, were unbelievably busy with a lot of things that had to be done on an emergency basis. For example, our initial spring COVID-19 MOU, where the focus was how do we protect faculty in their working conditions, how do we assure safety for faculty in our jobs, especially while we are under lockdown. What options do we have for faculty whose kids are out of school, etc. We had negotiations which took quite a little bit to provide for some stipend payments from the CARES Act for the enormous amount of work which kind of suddenly came upon us in the middle of March. We had other things coming up over the summer. We then had to again enter into negotiations about the training for summer, then the training for fall, then the transition work for fall. That's something I hope that the FA actually find, and the district teams, we have it pretty much done. We can sign it maybe tomorrow. Yeah, so there were admittedly a few things falling through the cracks of that emergency situation that we had. We will pick up the work immediately once we have our new board established, and with the stronger workforce we have now with 11 people, we actually are hoping that we can move a little bit faster. But yes, it's not going to be fall 2020, that's clear, right?
Yeah, right. So I was just specifically asking about a future timeline. I can certainly appreciate the tsunami of work that you all had since the spring and during the summer. I'm just wondering, moving forward, what is your projected timeline on completion of this work? And of course, I'm asking as the Academic Senate President because, you know, as your slide said, we delegated this work to you previously. So I'm just wondering, when can we expect some of these ideas to come to fruition?
Can I jump in there? I think we might have to give you a better sense of that at some future meeting once we get all of our new people on board, which just happened. Okay. I don't think either of us have a really clear idea of when we will be done for sure.
Right.
Yeah, there's a lot to do, and we don't, like, our committee composition might not even be the same.
Right.
So,
Yeah, I mean, the Senate is definitely going to be looking for that, right? And we'd love to have you back and understand the timeline, perhaps maybe the end of this semester or early in the spring, so that we have a timeline on this, because that's what we were looking for.
Yeah.
Today.
I think we might have to punt on that one and just get back to you once we've had a little more time to talk about it.
Got it. Patricia's raising her hand. Patricia?
Yeah, I really want to elevate something here. I think that the need for an online evaluation process, tool, kit, whatever, policy, procedure is an emergency. We now have all of these people teaching online. We have department chairs, including myself, who have to evaluate online classes. We don't have the tools. The evaluation procedure doesn't address it. 4105 doesn't address it. As Jeff just pointed out, we have this long list of things we consider necessary, but there's no template for us checking a box on that stuff. So this would have been an easy conversation to have if back in the day when the Senate totally owned this process, and now I'm kind of baffled about how do we proceed, because I feel we need to get to work on this right away, and I don't actually feel it would take that long. We've got the state online rubric, which we can use as a model. We have, it's a lot more of an adaptation than it is a creation. And how do we as Senate work with the FA to try to get this going sooner rather than later? I'm a little bit reluctant saying this, but I'm going to go ahead and say it on the record. I think unless we get this in place, we're going to have a lot more grievances to deal with, because department chairs need guidance and direction, and we don't have it ready for them.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Right. And I think we kind of hit the time where it's not totally clear which group should be doing it, right? Whether, because it's right, well, we're not migrated over yet, and we haven't done that directly, whereas you guys have more experience with this sort of thing. Mm-hmm. So that's a really good question. Who should be doing that? We will for sure. I think I can safely say we can put that at the top of our meeting list for the next time the committee meets. But I don't know who should be doing this. Cornelia?
So as you can see, the FA really has started working on this with highest priority, because I saw your email. You had a very good point. In fact, AP 4105 basically has 10 standards, and every standard has 3 sub-standards. This is not really usable. On the other hand, we have had online evaluations happening for a very long time. So it's not that there were no online evaluations, it's just now we have way more of them, right? And that's why we also need to have an easier to use tool. In general, the requirements of AP 7151 apply in general also to online education. We are, as I put into the slide, we have been reaching out to those faculty where we have, where we sense that these are the experts, right? Like our HIT department has been purely online since the age of the dinosaurs. We have faculty who are specialized in online instructions. These are the ones who are sitting in COI. I also heard, and I have people looking for that Kenley Neufeld, or some, probably it was Kenley Neufeld, that's what I was told, had put something together in the past. I'm at the moment searching for this. We will do this as soon as possible, as quickly as possible. I'm really happy to, share this with the Senate. That was the plan anyway. I wanted to get a little bit legwork to work together. We could do this as soon as next week. I'd be happy to, by next week, share with Senate steering maybe what the FA has been finding in terms of help. And then we could go from there. Would that be an okay timeline?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
In terms of,
again, I have quite a bit already, and the only question is putting it together, and we can and then we share it with the Senate steering so that we can get kind of an emergency handout for evaluators. Do a lot of emergency stuff this semester. That could be an emergency item as well.
Yeah. Robin?
Yeah, I just want to really second what Patricia said, that as a department chair, this is really important. It's not just that we have a lot more faculty that are being evaluated in the online environment. They're new to the online environment and they're looking for what expectations are and what they'll be evaluated on as well. And without those parameters, I think we will see a lot more confusion around the process. But I also wanted to ask, when we had this discussion about moving this to the FA, we also said strongly that there are items that remain with the Senate in terms of pedagogy, and so I'm unclear as to where that division is, and I think it would be really helpful at some point for the FA and the Senate to clarify what belongs to the FA in this and what belongs to the Senate and what the Senate should be working on. That might not be the most immediate pressing thing right now, but I'm concerned when I hear some of the items that are in this, where those items fall, if they fall in the pedagogy category or in the bargaining category. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
Well, Robin, I appreciate this comment. Thank you very much. And maybe I see this with an FA through an FA lens, a little biased. I believe that at least for the most part, what we addressed were not pedagogy issues. This is not. We looked at clarity in language. We looked at how can we provide training. And the items that Jeff just listed, I did not really see any part which was pedagogy in there.
Yeah, I think I'm just having questions because I don't clearly understand. We haven't clearly defined what goes where. And that would be my thought, is that the Senate, and now that the FA has done their initial pass, that we should have some communication as to where what goes where the lines are.
Well, yeah, I think this is a very good, like, clarification is always good. Yeah.
So Cornelia, I do know that you have other slides. They are on things like TLUs and things like that, which we didn't quite ask for this time around. It's 4:54. Would you be willing to table those and come back another time to provide those? I know you got them together today. I don't want to discredit
your... It's okay. It's okay. It's just like, I thought it was important to include them because number one, they were part of the package, and number two, this is something we are working on.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that. I'm just a little bit worried about time. We have an action item that we need to get to.
I understand.
Yeah, so if you could just pause on those, and if we could either give you the time after our presentations in October, or if that doesn't work, prioritize the FA coming back in November. I think that would be really helpful for getting through our agenda for today, if that's okay.
So paused, all good.
Okay. All good. Awesome. Excellent. So thank you. Jeff had to leave. He gave his apologies to everyone. Thank you to Cornelia for providing us with this information now. So with that, I do want to, like I just said, I do want to revisit our action item, which we moved it to action, which was the motion to, as a Senate, state clearly that we want to use, help me out here. Robbie, are you still out there? Did you clear up the language?
Yeah, it was that the Senate states that all instructors should use Canvas for their online courses. And then Russell sort of made a friendly motion, addition, whatever, to sort of state out the path that one takes if one has a complaint about that.
That's right. And that was in line of our current student grievance policy that we have elsewhere.
Right.
Thank you for helping me remember that. Patricia.
Muted.
It was a three-part motion, correct?
Yeah,
I would like to offer an amendment that, and I haven't written it out yet, so I'm going to be kind of making it up.
Hold on, Patricia, hold on. We moved it to action. We already voted.
Right.
So you can make a new motion.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Am I starting from scratch here? We're not going to vote on the other one first? Okay.
No, we already did. Patricia,
I
we voted and moved it to action. So that's why we're starting from scratch, because we're now in action.
So we need a motion now.
We need a motion now.
This is actually separate than what you were talking about, Ray, but I would like to move that we authorize the faculty representatives on BPAP to work with the appropriate faculty leads to draft language for an administrative procedure to address the use of the content management system, to address the question of student complaints. And what's the third one? You can see where I'm headed here. I want us to start drafting actual policy language that we can bring before people. So you guys are talking about let's get it out now as a statement, but I'd like us to be able to actually get to work on getting this in policy. So I wish I had written that out first. Okay, so authorize the faculty representatives on BPAP to draft administrative procedure languages addressing requirements for the content management, the learning management system, and the process for overseeing student complaints.
Okay. So that's the motion on the table currently, which does not include a current statement, just work for policy change. Ruth. Ruth took her hand down.
Well, I guess we need a second before we get discussion.
Yep, we need a second. Ruth, your hand's back up. Back down. What is Ruth doing? Do we have a second for Patricia's motion?
I'll second.
Who was that?
Kathy.
Kathy.
Ah, okay, thank you.
Can I ask for Patricia to just clarify the very last part of her motion?
I'm trying. I got the first part really clear, that the faculty on BPAP are going to work with the appropriate faculty leaders to write language and it's the last two. I think the two things we've talked about today would be the requirement to use the learning management system, and to codify a process for handling student complaints.
Boy, that's a lot. That's a lot to put in that one policy, though, about complaints.
Yeah.
For that one procedure.
Is there a problem?
Okay, I'm not saying this has to be in one AP. I just said write language for administrative procedures.
Okay.
So we have a motion made by Patricia, seconded by Kathy. Chris, by the way, was trying to offer the language she had.
Oh, okay.
But I think we're good at this point. Ruth.
Okay, I was trying to give a discussion. I was wondering where we were at that stage. Anyway, so to be clear, these are two different things. One is a statement we would get out now. Right. Patricia's is something completely different, which hopefully we have ready for spring. Okay, and then another thing is the use of Canvas. We're not saying particular tools, right? Specific tools. We're only gonna say use Canvas as some sort of clearinghouse, right?
That's a portal.
As a portal, okay. And also email done through there. So that may need some clarification. So that's one thing. And then the other thing is the next steps, taking it to BPAP, but where do we have, like, didn't we say even in our agenda, like ITC and COI and that sort of thing? So how does that fit into this?
What I'm thinking of is we take the faculty reps on BPAP, which probably be Ray and me, and Chris, if he would want to join us, we'd pull together, I'm talking about a meeting. We bring in ITC, we bring in AP, we bring in COI, we have one meeting and we really just get this language written and codified. We bring it back to Senate first, And then if Senate signs off on it, then we shoot it back over to BPAP. The reason I'm having faculty on BPAP lead this thing is just because we live in this world of writing language and policies. So Senate would absolutely get another look at this. We just want to give Senate something to work with. You know, we want to have some good solid language that everybody can look at.
I just wanted to make sure we weren't like skipping folks. We should.
No.
Okay.
So if we can just clarify again, we initially moved to action, a recommendation for the Senate to make a declarative statement now. And the motion on the table is to work on policy for next semester, essentially.
So are you saying that's an inappropriate motion to make at this time?
No, I'm making sure, no, not at all. I don't have an opinion on that. What I'm saying is, I just want to make sure that people are dialed into what's happening, because the motion to move it to action happened before our presentation. There were other hands up and now they're gone. Anna?
So I guess I would like to clarify, with this motion, does that mean that there isn't a statement on the table?
That's how I understand it.
That's not my intent. So, I mean, I want us to be able to move forward on getting something in policy so we can implement it for spring. That does not preclude anything we choose to do for fall.
It doesn't. So procedurally, Anna, I think to answer the question that you didn't ask, you asked, you know, is there a statement? There's not currently. We would vote on the current motion. And then if somebody would want to make a motion to make a statement for now, we could do that. The time's 5:02, however, so we would also need a motion to extend our meeting, by the way. Ellen?
I want to suggest a friendly amendment that this motion include our making a statement now.
Okay.
So Patricia agrees to that friendly amendment. Kathy O'Connor would also have to agree to it. Kathy?
I'm fine with it, thank you.
Great. So we have the person who made the motion and the person that seconded it agree to the friendly amendment. Thank you, Ellen, for bringing those two items together. Any more discussion, or would anybody like the current motion with the friendly amendment clarified at this time? Robbie.
I just wonder, I just wonder why we're talking about the student complaint procedure. Have problems with that been identified?
Well, it was to loop in the issue with the dean. So
that the dean couldn't lurk, it would only be this. Okay. Okay.
Which begins with the student complaint. So the process would include whether or not we want the deans lurking.
Sounds good.
Jenny?
Okay, and if this passes, does that mean that like really, really soon a statement's going to go out to the campus that they need to get on campus this semester? Like it's going to go out now?
I was going to draft an email to say, hey, I'm your academic senate president. We voted today or tomorrow or yesterday or 2 days ago, whenever I get this email written, that, well, it isn't, I don't know how I'll say it, but while it isn't that clear in policy, I won't say that, that the academic senate voted and we feel strongly that you all need to be on Canvas or something.
Okay, and might then that also indicate or spell out that BPAP is going to be crafting actual policy language about it so that they can expect that for next semester to have teeth.
Yep.
Okay.
Just clarify this for credit. Oh, sorry.
I was just going to say, you know, we're talking about this as though there's this huge chunk of the world who's not doing this right. And I just want to be clear, vast majority of people are doing this really well. So I think the letter out to folks could be, it's come to our attention that our current AP isn't clear enough about principles that we hold to be of value. The Senate has reinforced its principles. We are now also working to document our principles in AP 4105 to be clear. But just so you all know, this is our academic expectation.
That's the email I'm going to send, Jenny.
Yeah, I'm going to shoot that over to her in a text message in a minute. I've been thinking about this for a week straight, so thank you.
Any other discussion on the motion with the friendly amendment at this time? If not, let's get this bad boy voted upon, shall we? All right, let me share my screen to get. I'm bringing up the wrong thing. 20 minutes later, I'll have our members up. There we go. So with that, we are now voting on the motion on the table. We'll go through
Can you
senators.
please restate the motion?
Oh, I was scared you were going to ask that.
Chris?
So what do you guys want first?
I can read it
Statement or
off.
the policy? Okay, thank you, Chris.
Yeah, okay. So the motion made by Patricia Stark said, motion to authorize the faculty representatives on BPAP to work with appropriate leads to draft language addressing requirements for their learning management system and overseeing student complaints. And the amendment by Senator Carey was to include a statement to have the Academic Senate recommend Canvas as the learning management system to be used.
For credit faculty.
For credit faculty.
Okay. Thank you for that, Chris. Very helpful. So with that, we'll go, Robbie.
Sorry, is recommend too weak a word? I mean, I kind of think it is. That's why I'm asking. But if nobody else agrees, it's fine with me.
It's the motion on the table, Robbie.
Okay.
We can have our fifth friendly amendment here.
As my son says.
Recommend is good.
Okay.
Fact is, folks, until we get this into policy, we can't do anything more than recommend.
I don't remember exactly my phrasing, but strongly recommend is the sentiment that was behind it.
Can I make a friendly amendment that we add the word strongly in there in front of recommend?
Patricia? Patricia says yes. Kathy? Kathy O'Connor?
Yes.
There we
Yes.
go. Thank you, Kathy.
And everybody's buying Christina a glass of wine after this, right?
Yes. Okay. All right. Without any more friendly amendments or discussion, we're gonna vote on this. Cornelia.
Yes.
Jen. Counselor.
Yes.
Thank you, Jen. Ellen.
Yes.
Jenny.
Yes.
Patricia.
Yes.
Michelle.
Yes.
Savannah.
Yes.
Thanks, Savannah. Pam.
Yes.
Kathy.
Yes.
Robin.
Yes.
Jen.
Yes.
Robbie.
Yes.
Almost called you Rob. Wow, it's been a long meeting. Ruth.
Yes.
Tara.
Yes.
Russell.
Yes.
Trisha.
Yes.
And Anna.
Yes.
Excellent.
But
Thank
guys,
you.
you know that was just a big deal, right?
Yes, it's a huge deal.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. With 30 seconds, I'm going to do our last discussion item. I debated between doing an information item and a discussion item, and it wound up here. I doubt you'll have discussion, but that's not me trying to dissuade you from discussion. Last week at Senate, we voted to allot the unused TLU from the Faculty Recognition Committee Chair's TLU assignment to the Academic Senate President, so that the Academic Senate President had a full 15 TLUs. As a matter of fact, unfortunately, during our spring work, I found out that our bylaws miscounted our TLUs. And so we actually didn't have a quote extra or quote unused TLUs. We are currently at our max TLU use. That's why I included our Senate TLUs for fall 2020 there. It is in our contract that we have, 48, and we are in fact using 48. So even though the Senate voted last week to assign that TLU to the Senate President, there is in fact no TLU to assign to the Senate President. So the bylaws will not be changed at this time. The Senate President will remain having only 14 TLUs, and perhaps at a future Senate body and meeting, if a TLU is freed up at that time, the Senate can either delegate it to the President as this Senate body wish, or use it in another way. So if there aren't any questions on that, it would be really, and it's okay if there are, it would be really awesome if somebody made a motion to adjourn our meeting.
Move to
So
adjourn.
moved.
I think that was Robin.
Yes.
I can't tell. I think it was Robin and then
Was
Cornelia seconded. So if everybody could unmute themselves and declare your vote to adjourn this meeting.
Yes.
Yes.
All right, friends, I'm going to see you all in October, and I really hope you come very, very prepared by reading through all of those proposals that Bea got together for us so nicely. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Hi, thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.